परफेक्ट डिसीजन मेकिंग और बिजनेस ग्रोथ के लिए हम आपके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर आपकी स्वप्न पूर्ति करते हैं। स्त्रोत कंसल्टेक, सिनर्जाइजिंग ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन।
Hi, this is Shirish Kulkarni, founder and CEO of Stroth Consultech, and we have been running this initiative called as Hatke for last more than 1.5 years, and I have been speaking to various individuals who have, spent their life in a different way, had different kind of experiences, achieved different feats, and made their own mark and created their own life journey for themselves. And we have a great honor to have Yogesh Joshi with us. Yogesh, great to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Right. And, someone who has done his engineering, stayed for some time in a corporate, have spent around 28 years in Air Force and now entered back into corporate. It's a, for being a fighter pilot who has contributed into wars like Kargil combat, it's an amazing, it's going to be exciting. I'm so excited, Yogesh, to talk to you. Wonderful
Thank you
to
so
have.
much. Wonderful to talk to you too.
So let's go back, roll our camera back and go into your engineering time. And, we had been buddies in COEP 1990
Yes.
mechanical, right? I just remember this, acronym that has been attached to you. And with your permission, I'll utter that YZ. So you are called as YZ. YZ in terms means that it differentiated, unique, hatke. So where did it happen, Yogesh?
Yes, the name is pretty hatke in a civilized word. In the Marathi aggressive parlance, it has a specific meaning, and that is what was attached to the word YZ. And the person responsible single-handedly is the Regatta Secretary of College of Engineering Pune at that time, Manoj Tamankar, who is a very, very great musician, by the way, I'm aware. And it so happened that on one Sunday with my rowing friends, I went there in the first year of engineering to pass my punting test. And you had to row across the river and come back in a straight line, and that was a criteria to pass. So anxious as I was, I completed the test successfully, and with great jubilation, I went to the Regatta Secretary, Mr. Manoj Tamankar then, asking him to sign my punt card that I cleared the test. So he happened to ask me my name. And first year engineering graduate doesn't have any substantial name at that particular time. So I happened to tell him it is Joshi YJ.
YZ, okay.
Those are my initials, YJ Joshi. So he said, what? YZ? And that moment was, carved into the stone from thereafter. And I was always called as YZ for rest of my engineering years. And even later, and that now as me as YZ, yes.
It's amazing, where people are still referring you as YZ. And if we look back to your career, the whole career of being a fighter pilot, being a test pilot, being into engineering, application of your own gut, it's a absolute YZ story.
Oh yes, so you uttered a word gut, and absolutely, this has been my personality. I always gone by what's there in the gut. It's even going into the Air Force itself was totally a gut feeling. And just to extend the first question, even through the Air Force, I was always called YJ. They dropped the Z, but I always retained the YJ name as a nickname through the Air Force.
Wonderful.
And yes, as you asked or as you suggested, it's totally a journey, filled with gut feelings.
Superb. So going back, did you ever think in your college days or school days that you will, get into this being a fighter pilot? Anytime that you gave that entrance exam? No?
Not at all. Being in the engineering college, we are supposed to, graduate, either go to US or go to IITs or IIMs. And that was my family background too. I'm the only person, none before me, none after me, who has joined the services or the defense forces. So we had no inkling. I had no inkling what it is for. And when I had applied, Vivek Modgal in our batch, we used to discuss things in the evening in the gym, boat club gym.
Right.
what is it about? I said, I have applied for this particular thing. So he said, you are a mechanical engineer, so probably they'll send you to missiles or something. I said, no, I think the advertisement said pilot course, so it must be for flying or something. So that was all that we knew in our group. And this is how I just joined, thinking that I'm going into a flying branch. And that,
Superb. So there was some kind of entrance exam, and then when did you see the first fighter, kind of a plane and experience it?
it starts pretty fast in the Air Force. Air Force doesn't waste any time in training. I was the what is called as a direct entry, having completed my engineering graduation. Other people join through the schemes such as the National Defense Academy or through NCC, so they have kind of a little bit of orientation to the armed forces. I joined after having completed engineering. And the syllabus that I followed was for first 6 months, I was trained on ground, basic indoctrination into the Air Force and some aviation related terminology. So that was for 6 months, and thereafter straight away into the cockpit. So flying starts pretty early.
Oh, so
And
you are directly in the cockpit. And so what
oh
was the
yes.
feeling? It was butterflies in the stomach, or?
No. Well, the feeling is pretty scary. I mean, when you go to the air for the first time, it's a small aircraft. It was called HPT-32. It was a two-seater trainer aircraft, and the first air experience, the first flight, what we call sortie in the Air Force, is for the air experience because people haven't flown earlier. So one instructor takes you to the air, and when you sit, you are just just a glass all around, there is nothing, and he wanted to show me some feature on ground. See, this is what the lake is near us or whatever. So he put on a little bit of bank to show me there, and I was so scared. I was hanging on to the railing of that glass cockpit, whatever that cockpit was. It is scary. It takes time to unnerve, rather get your nerves steady and get out of that experience part.
Right, right.
And
So,
that is why the training is meant for, or it's tailored accordingly. Don't
so
waste time on trivial issues, start getting into the fighting mode.
and how fast do you get to even fly a plane as a pilot yourself? Is it some number of hours that you have to spend, or?
Yeah, the syllabus goes on specified number of hours, and it doesn't stop. Today, in today's case, I'm a fighter pilot. I'm a fighter pilot of the erstwhile generation, and basically meaning I have flown primarily the Russian origin aircraft. With that, and off late, as I became test pilot, the Western origin aircraft, and more than 3,500 hours of flying. So that is the kitty that I've accumulated in my pocket.
Wow. And so talking about this feeling of building your gut, not building your gut, but I think you have to be becoming tough, right? Mentally tough, physically tough. To this small aircraft can go and do flip flop.
No, what I meant to tell you was that the training starts in a trainer. That was a propeller aircraft, small one. Immediately you graduate onto within 6 months to a jet aircraft. It's a jet trainer, and another 6 months you are into a fighter cockpit. So that is how our system is, the training pattern is designed. And thereafter, what you brought out correctly is it's all about toughening the mind. That is the ultimate aim through the enhanced or improved or sharpened skills. So you can see that way the soldiering is nothing but honing your skills so that your mind also gets trained accordingly, and you perform, body and mind perform together. So that kind of a thing happens, and it happens really actively in the training pattern that the armed forces have, whether in the Air Force, Navy, or the Army.
Now, bringing this a very kind of a sensitive thought of the fear part, and also being near to the death. As a kid, and as we grow, eventually build our career, the fear is always there with us. Fear of maybe a height, fear of death, and as a fighter pilot, you would be always on the border of death. So how does this start? Because this is all scary, and common person doesn't either know it and never goes through it.
I think it's more of a fabric that the armed forces have, the ethos that they have, fabric of living. Nobody, especially teaches you how to overcome fear or how to negate fear. It's accepted as part of life. It's just that the atmosphere around you, the training that you are given with, the practices, the exercise that you participate with, they all keep continuously exposing to this reality that the death of fear could be just around the corner, and you live with it. There is no way you can do away with it. Even today, when I go for flight, that somewhere at the back of mind, it's always there. Things may go wrong. I may not come back, whatever. Uh, the question is getting used to it. How quickly you get used to it, how effectively you get used to it. Mm, the bottom line is you tend to, brush it aside. A cricketer brushes aside a ball hitting him at, let's
Mm.
say, more than 100 miles per hour, is similar thing, knowing fully well that it may just happen one day. And
Mm.
the life that you live, not talking about the social aspect, the professional aspect is perfectly tailored to it, and primarily it's because of such aspects of that life that people who are not in the armed forces, they respect the people in the armed forces. This is something, we have chosen by, it's a willful act that we have done of joining the armed forces, and we know what is in store for us, and we are ready for it. I think the
Really, really.
entire life spent there
Mm.
goes towards this.
So hats off to that kind of commitment,
Oh,
dedication.
thank you so much. I would not say it's something out of the world, but it is something that one needs to work for.
Right. And as such, about that mental toughness, are there some specific ways that they kind of surprise you? They kind of take you for reaction time.
It's
So
always like
are
that.
there? Yeah.
Every time when you play with a weapon, and when I say weapon, I say a fighter aircraft is a weapon platform. So you're
Mm.
always dealing with it. The army person, he'll deal with guns. The navy will with his ships. They are the weapons for waging the war. And the toughness doesn't come very easily. You have to get exposed to it. You have to keep doing it again and again. That's why probably you would have read many times in newspapers that so and so happened when they were on a routine training exercise or routine training mission. So it keeps happening every day. So this ethos that these armed forces have is not let your guard down.
Okay. Always.
Continuously be at it. I remember, or if you take a long breaks, let's say typically closer to your important milestones in life, marriage or
Mm.
child's birth or something like that, a person tends to take a longer leave, and then he's away from this hostile environment kind of
Right.
a thing.
Uh-huh.
So one needs to put in special efforts to get back to the
Oh my God.
earlier mindset. It's very easy to drop it because our mind tells us not to, be part of that continuously. So it works both ways. You get a break, you can unwind a bit, but you need to get back also to the same. It's a deliberate effort, and the environment that we have in the armed forces is totally conducive for it. So it helps. It
Right.
takes care of it, care of its own people.
It's like walking on the edge always.
Always. Somebody, you have to be really, really careful. And mostly, I believe the care is about, about yourself, what you are inside, what you're thinking inside. It's not so much outside. It's continuously the what's within you. So that
Right.
is what pushes you and make you hold steady on the border, as you said.
Wonderful. Now, talking about this danger or risk, do you, want to cite any kind of experience which actually put yourself almost there, and you remember that a kind of a moment?
Yes, I can. I mean, I have had a ejection in which my aircraft suffered a emergency. The engine of I was flying a MiG-23 aircraft.
Mm.
It's a fighter aircraft with a single engine. I mean, it has only one engine. So when I was flying, it developed a snag problem, and because of which the engine stopped working. So I tried attempting to restart it again in the air, taking various actions that we are, taught to do, but it refused to. It had become too hot, so there was no point continuing with the aircraft thereafter.
Right.
The fighter aircraft have this feature, you pull a handle. People would have seen it in the movies. It'll leave the aircraft in a fraction of a second with a very high speed ejection. That's why it's called ejection. And then you come down with a parachute. Yes, so what you said, the fear part, you can actually feel it there, it's sitting next to you.
Oh my God, so unique.
In the sense, even today I can remember the cold sweat that one gets. There is something. If another few seconds, if things don't happen, I don't know what's going to happen to me. So you really feel it. That day she was there inside the cockpit with me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is that way.
Okay.
And that's why I said it's always with you. The death, the fear, whatever you term it as part of soldier's life, it's always with you. Just, get to enjoy living with her.
Oh my God, I think it's something that is as a lesson that we should take as, and there should be some leeway of also educating a common person to get that kind of experience.
Yes, but point is, you don't live your life under the fear of being, with fear or just around the corner with death. No, that is not how you live life. There are ways you overcome this. People are generally aware that the defense forces people they have lots of parties. They have elaborate social functions. They have kind of decorum. You always wear proper immaculate uniforms and dresses.
Right.
One of the reason is this. Why do you want to exchange views when you have met a person in the office for 8 hours? Why do you want to have a party in the evening once again? Because what you felt in the 8 hours in the day, you want to unwind of it in the evening.
Oh my God, it's so human to.
Yes, you look forward to such opportunities. So there are mechanisms put in place where such things are addressed. So I don't want to convey the feeling that it's all about fear and thinking about death. That is not how life goes in the armed forces. The positive aspects of meeting the challenge head on, achieving something that is assigned to you, no matter what. The bottom line being the no matter what statement. Is something that you learn there. And if I was fortunate, I think I could do my job there.
Right. We will get into all the details about how engineering helped you to be at getting into different levels or ranks in Air Force, as well how you applied it to test the various types of machines or flights, to the way that you are now circling back to become a chief test pilot.
I'm the chief test pilot with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited at Kanpur.
So it is a complete circle that you've completed. But I wanted to ask you, and you've reached to a rank of group captain also. So salute to you again for that. Amazing. I'm so honored to be even talking to somebody like.
Come on.
So what was the moment of pride? You felt like, oh wow, when during this whole journey that you had.
I can easily tell you one. I think that was the extreme moment of pride that I had. First of all, let me tell you that I feel happy to be a engineer, a product of College of Engineering Pune, mechanical engineering, one of the 3 prime branches. When the ego made us think that nothing else in the matter but what you are doing in COEP. And the way I was tailored, I was never really serious about studies in the engineering when I was doing engineering. And had I continued, I would have joined somewhere in the management side or something, which is allied field, but not directly dealing with engineering. That more than that, I had this great sense of do something to do with adventure, and that is the primary reason why I joined the Air Force. The one-liner reason why I joined the Air Force is this: adventure. Okay,
Mm.
I've had my share of it, and I'm totally happy. But somewhere at the back of my mind during these, years that I spent with the Air Forces, that yes, I'm a mechanical engineer, and no matter what I felt during those 4 years, I'm going to do something about those 4 years that I spent with you guys.
Mm, 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 mm.
Use my mechanical engineering. And as I grew through the Air Force, I was definitely slowly getting pulled emotionally and intellectually to join this fraternity called Test Pilots.
Mm.
It's a 1 year long course in which extensive knowledge of engineering is required and extensive work along with the engineers is required. When you design, develop new aircraft and their systems, you evaluate those. So I was totally fascinated, and I was one of the few people who were engineer by qualification
Mhm.
and pilot by profession, and that too getting a chance to become a test pilot.
Wonderful.
So it is a kind of culmination of qualifications that I had gathered till then, and I was really drawn to that, and I can easily say that is those are the best 10 years that I have enjoyed professionally in the Air Force. And the happiest moment that you asked me, I have with the Indian Air Force, and I was the test pilot for the project, and accepting that what we had worked on for 4 years with the foreign the vendors on behalf of the Air Force was the I think the one of the greatest feeling of satisfaction and pride
Wow.
that I had, that some job that was interested upon me, I could do to the best of my abilities for the country that to the on behalf of the country
Wow.
for whom I had worked for so long.
Solid. Solid.
And you know how these particular aircraft were, utilized later.
Yes, yes, yes. So coming to that, about real combat scenes and be part of the war, and you've participated in Kargil. So this is one part is like application of your engineering knowledge. The second part is to really use this weapon for the zeal of the country, for the zeal of win, for the zeal of getting over it. So how was that transformation, and how?
Oh no,
Uh,
it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy, at least for me. Uh, Describing myself, I would rather call myself a gentle person than any kind of aggression,
mm,
person who would show any kind of aggression. So it doesn't come naturally to me. Even I doubt myself, if I am given a fighter aircraft with bombs loaded, will I go across and have a daring to drop it on people across? Yes,
so,
these thoughts do come, but that is where I think the extensive training and being at it comes at hand. I suppose, in my opinion, nobody is born with the instinct to go and drop bombs or fire guns or that way. It's a cultivated skill and mental attitude that one has. So yes, when I was deployed in some base in Western Frontier during Kargil, these occasions came, and yes, you feel hesitant, you feel scared, but you never feel that this is, or I can not do it.
mm.
You always are at it. No matter what comes my way, it will happen the way it is supposed to.
Wow, I think there will be this part of one getting trained to take commands and blindly follow them, right somewhere in point of time.
Yes. See, it happens. Taking command is generally taken in the outside world as, something inferior. Somebody is giving you command. You are not using your, uh,
Thought
your
process
brain.
or gut or
But now the importance of following orders comes into fore, that if everybody starts using their different intent, then the wars can't be won.
Oh,
So we have to keep aside your biases and prejudices and follow what is told. So that happens at the younger level. The depends on the earlier years of experience, and then you assume that command, and then you tell people, you go across in the hostile territory, the enemy territory, knowing fully well that things won't be conducive. Some people may not come back. So That gives you the sense of responsibility. It makes you mature. So it's an evolutionary process that you go through.
Yeah, but at that point in time, your mind has to be so clear to just do it. I mean, there is no doubt, right? I mean, absolutely. And how does one get to that kind of clarity that this is the thing?
Again, it comes to the upbringing or the environment that the armed forces have within themselves. This kind of, following the leadership and the leader's responsibility to encourage, younger people's views and respect them. This mutual understanding is what is taken as, a leadership and a followership. Once it matures, then you trust each other that whatever order is given, it's a good order. It needs to be followed, and the leader feels confident whatever I have told will be done. So it's a mutual trust that we have, and we do work, and that's why Indian Armed Forces are famous for that. We are respected world over for that.
Excellent. So I think there will be a chain of command where the command is given and then it just gets followed, and that's where.
Oh yes, there is no choice.
Time.
There is no debate in that. Once an order is passed, it is executed.
Super. Now, going back to the time that you were flying a fighter plane, and it must be doing some 10G of forces and in different maneuvers and all that. So how, and then it could be a split of second or fraction of a second. So from your point of view as a fighter pilot, how small is that second or fraction of the second, and where did you fail it?
A simple example: when you fire a rocket on a let's say a tank on ground or some enemy installation on ground, you are descending something to the tune of let's say 2,500 to 3,000 feet per second.
Per second. Wow.
Okay. So, and you have you have height to the target, something to the tune of, let's say, 3,000, 4,000 feet below you. That is all that is left. So you practically have 1 to 2 seconds to reach the correct range to fire.
Wow.
Do it and exit from that scenario. If you don't, you're going to hit either the ground or the debris that the bomb or rocket would create. So you have to be at it. You have to keep practicing it.
Wow. And what Mach speed that it will be, around 3-4 Mach or more?
Yes,
than
the aircraft, today's aircraft, they do fly at Mach 2 plus. That means double the speed of sound. Okay. There are aircraft in the world who have gone up to 3, that is 3 Mach. I have gone past 2. So that's again an exhilarating feeling. Things happen pretty excitedly.
And we were talking about that adrenaline rush when you get into that position where you have this weapon with you and you have been summoned or you've been given this command to do something. So how does it work?
Everything happens. Every combat happens purely because of the adrenaline rush. Without that, you cannot. I mean, how can you? To fight, there is only 2 things: fight or flight, right? You can never take a flight. You cannot run away.
Yes.
You have to fight, and to fight, you need adrenaline rush. So every time you walk to the aircraft, every time you even prepare for the aircraft, it starts flowing inside. You can feel it. One moment you are sitting, you probably relax in a room, AC room, having a cup of tea or whatever. But the moment the orders are given or the mission is planned, and you are all go, suddenly the mood changes. Typically for me, the mood used to change when I used to go into the changing room. You must have seen in the movies, the fighter pilots wear some kind of G suits, anti-gravity suits on their legs, carry their helmet in their hands and walk to For me, those were the moments when the adrenaline used to start flowing.
Wow.
And once you sit in the cockpit, you are no more the same person. You belong to the aircraft belongs to you, and then you do what you want to in the air. It has to be with this adrenaline rush.
Do you miss that kind of rush at times?
No, I don't. I use it still now in my present job here. It never goes. So it never goes. It's always with you.
Excellent. Now, we were talking about gut, and as you fly different aircraft, there'll be a sense of forces, abilities, vision, instrument, and all that complex thing that is there inside. Now, translating that into something that you are designing in the role that you are playing as a test pilot to design new aircraft. Now you have your own experiences while flying, your gut feels, your past that you have got developed that feel that something has to be in such a way. So how is that feeling of translation of all those things that you have gathered in your experience to something that you are bringing in the future?
Oh, I think that is the crux of my job as a test pilot. That means I have flown the aircraft as a fighter pilot in the Air Force. I know what the requirements are, what a pilot needs in the cockpit, how he should operate, how he feels comfortable operating, and when he is uncomfortable. So I have kind of a background knowledge, having spent my years there. And a test pilot job is to, he is a kind of an interface between the operational fighter pilot, let's say, or operational pilot, and the people, the manufacturers who make the aircraft. So I act as the interface between the two. I tell the industry that this is what a fighter pilot needs or a pilot needs in the aircraft, and help them make and build those kind of aircraft and systems. And for the pilot, I liaise with him to understand his needs, what he wants more, what he wants new, and tell those requirements back to the industry. So I act as the interface. And another important responsibility I have is whatever products are made, whatever aircraft and systems are made, I evaluate them threadbare, so that once they reach the pilots, they are absolutely clear in terms of their mission accomplishment, what they're capable or they're supposed to be capable of achieving, and their safety. That means they should never fail as far as utilization is concerned. So that is my job here.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think just thinking about it is in conventional term, it is like a product manager who understands requirements from the end users. Now here we are talking about people who are going to consume those products or fly those aircraft, translating to manufacturers to really design the systems, subsystems.
Kind of. And this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to use my engineering knowledge. I wanted to use the flying background knowledge and the test pilot qualifications, so that I can be better effective, and better utilized in an industry which will help the pilots to achieve their job or their goals.
So in engineering days, we remember that there is some gyro used, which a gyroscope is basically having, spheres rotating under 6 axes. So we'll come to gyro, but my more question is, there are so many systems, so many panels, so many controls, so many dials. Does your mind get boggling of such a complex thing?
Initially, yes, it does, especially as the aircraft start getting complicated. There are two ways of addressing this: prepare, and prepare. That means you study a lot, you prepare on ground, know about the systems. Even then, when the aircraft starts, your mind tends to go hazy, buzzy, and haywire. The moment you start hearing those engine noises and all, it tends to blank off. So prepare, and practice.
Okay.
This never ends. So what you say is perfectly right. Even today, when I fly any new aircraft, these things come back to me. Oh, I need to know how it will, what it will do, how it will do, how will I get it back, how will I fly, etc., etc. These things happen, and that's the only way to overcome it. No more, prepare more.
Right. No more.
And as a test pilot, that is one trait that one looks for. You should be adaptable to fly any aircraft. You should be able to handle any aircraft, any system, whether on ground or in the air. That's one of the important traits that one needs to have when you become a test pilot.
Superb. And as you look at the performance of that particular aircraft that is built, there are 2 dimensions. We were talking about some performance tests, and then there are certain things which are actually decided on the gut. Those cannot be quantified. Maybe it's a tacit knowledge that you have. So Is that the way that the aircraft gets
Yes,
tested?
aircraft usually when you test it, there are three broad categories. One is the aircraft performance, one is the aircraft handling qualities, and third is the avionic systems that are there on board, the electronic system that the aircraft carries. The performance of the aircraft is a very quantifiable information that you can easily calculate within how much distance the aircraft will get airborne, how much distance it will take to land, within how much time it will climb to a particular altitude. These tests can be easily performed mathematically. There are models available, and you time it out actually in the air to see if it is meeting those criteria or not. But the other aspects of flying qualities, how aircraft behaves in air, though there are many tests which are trying to be quantitative in nature, but what pilot feels is purely is a subjective feeling. So you need to pay attention to how a pilot would feel that aircraft when he flies it, and then again you have to be aware of what are the expectations, what is the role that the aircraft is performing. A transport aircraft, which is, let's say, Airbus 320, it should not turn with a very fast rate of putting on bank. Whereas a fighter class of aircraft, when you want to engage into a combat, it should just respond to your input in a fraction of a second. So these two are different flying qualities or handling qualities that the aircraft needs to display. So you should be aware of it. And then you actually do the tests in air, assimilate the information that you can. There are certain grading factors that you can utilize that are available, and then make your assessment. And if one person's assessment is not good enough, then you call more number of test pilot to get a kind of overall view how the aircraft is behaving. So these kind of tests are available where both quantitative and qualitative assessments are required.
So your gut definitely reflects something
Definitely.
beyond the
When you do the qualitative test, it's purely the gut feeling, but a gut cannot be made to give a verdict.
final choice.
Yes. So towards that, you try to be as objective, as
As
in your assessment as possible. Try to figure out or list out various criteria that you think are, leading you to become objective. But yes, at the end of it, once again, you are relying on your instincts.
Superb. And that could be the way that the decisions are taken. Maybe couple of more pilots would be testing it
Yes, it does have in a big testing program like what we have in the Tejas LCA in the Indian Air Force. We are doing it. There are many test pilots who are flying that aircraft. We are experimenting with it and evolving the aircraft as such. It does happen that.
So Yogesh, I always was thinking about what inspires you. One was the adventure part that you started with, and it will be ingredient in you. Adrenaline part is definitely something that is. But is there anything that inspires you, gets you up in the morning with that spirit, to really do that day in a different way or to achieve something?
I wouldn't call one person, or I wouldn't list one person as the person who's influenced my life, but I also would like to say that different people have influenced me in different phases of life. I am generally of that opinion that I rather wouldn't give one person a credit to be a total role model for me as such.
Okay.
For me, it doesn't happen that way, though I respect all of stalwart that I cross. But I tend to pick up personality traits which appeal to me, to my personality, from different people. So yes, there have been, including our college days, I have had friends who have influenced me, maybe influenced me to an extent that I chose the profession I did. And through the Air Force, there have been many people whom I respect and look forward to the qualities in them that I think I need to imbibe in myself. And so, yes, this is how it goes. I won't be able to give you one name. There are many, and that's how I look at it. And I am thankful to all of them, those who have influenced me.
Wonderful. I think it is it basically shapes the individual by these cornerstones that we find these individuals who actually influence those portions of our life, and they mean a lot to us. I think
Yes, they do
that's
mean a
great.
lot. Yes.
As we were speaking about, this thought that you were expressing about prepare, 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 practice, practice, practice. So, do you think that the person that is going through this drill would always be prepared with thoughts? Maybe it's in the form of question that he or she might get. So, on the contrary, do you find that the individuals in the common life do not think much on their feet, and then that would be the drastic
I
difference
think
between?
so. I think so. I mean, the prepare or study or know is a mental faculty, and that needs to be exercised. And as I spent my years while doing so, I realized that not everyone was equally effective. What as per my standards of being effective. And then I realized, why is it so? I am generally a person who's more of an introvert kind, and my mind works inside pretty much, though I don't say many things
Benefits.
aloud. I tend to keep quiet but think a lot.
Okay.
I think this kind of uh, trait has helped me prepare and go over the situations over and over again and think of a situation in different perspective, different angles, question myself.
Mm.
And I think not many people or not all people around me were exercising this kind or exhibiting this kind of a trait. And then I could think that, or I could conclude, infer that not everybody around thinks. Rather, off late, I would even highlight it by saying not many people think.
Agree.
So I think if a person having introspection, ability to introspect, does far better in such situations when there is a need to prepare and excel out of it.
So I think this is a great message for anybody in any profession, any business, to take it from there where that insight has to be developed, where you practice yourself for your business, for the questions, for the business problems, for the challenges, for the possibilities, right? And it's in
You
mind.
use the word, you use the word insight.
Mm.
Insight itself has a word in it. So you have to be within yourself.
Right.
So you have to think, you have to be with yourself. Then only, you will arrive at a solution.
Wonderful. Nice. Another dimension that we were talking about is the fear factor, fear part. Do you have any kind of a simple technique that you could advise, right?
I don't know whether I would call it a technique or how would you put it, but yes, uh, the there is a famous psychology lesson that, or inference, that the more you deny a particular thing, the more it will keep troubling you.
Okay.
So if you are worried about fear, then the only way to overcome it is face it,
All
face
right.
the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have done it with myself, I tend to tell other people also, and I believe it's one of the well-known psychology techniques is the look into the mirror test. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the get up in the morning, whichever disheveled state you are in, just get up and stand in front of the mirror. And so you're so fresh from the sleep, and you
Mm-hmm.
look deep into your eyes, other than of course, the physical aspects of how you look. Once you start looking into your eyes, it initially actually feels a little scary looking into your own eyes,
Okay.
because then you see what person is standing in front of you, and then it allows you, looking into the eyes allows you to come out with your real emotions.
Okay.
Facing fear is one of the good exercise, or to giving an opportunity for it to come out.
Wow.
I have felt it. I have done it many times when I was, unsure, uncertain what is going to happen
Wow.
next in the
Mm.
next flight. But you have to look into the eyes, and it's a scary experience when you do it in the first few attempts. And it's only when you reconcile with what you see in the mirror is the time you feel comfortable with yourself.
Oh my goodness. This is very valuable technique.
I
That's
had told it to some of my, subordinates and my peers. Even today, even I told my daughter about this.
mm.
She also agreed it's pretty scary looking into the eyes.
Okay. I'm definitely going to try it tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah. Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good, good. Now, a little bit twisty question. If not, the fighter pilot, what do you think you would have been? It's a kind of hypothetical question, but triggering your mind. What you would have become otherwise, if not the fighter pilot?
Probably I would say, looking back, I think I can say it now, having spent so much life, that the field that would have fascinated me is probably a psychologist,
Oh, okay,
or probably a historian,
okay.
something like that. Yes.
And those.
I think
Mm,
it's something to do with people, I guess.
mm, mm.
I think that is what fascinates me.
Good. And another question: if we go back to those college days, and you find there are so many wise-eyed people there, right? Similar to the young wise-eyed Yogesh Joshi that time. Anything that you will tell that young boy, do this, don't do this, something that you want to tell?
I think you brought it up pretty much in this particular question answer session itself, and I would still stick 100% with that. Go by the gut.
Go by the gut. Solid, solid.
Absolutely. I have lived my life like that. I have always gone by the gut, and it has helped me. It has helped me to be happy in the life as such, in a broader sense. And I think that is the way I would like to live it again. And hence my advice, if somebody asks at all, it'll be go by the gut.
Go by the gut. And as we look at this, you are definitely defining your future, as we were discussing, in the form of spreading the knowledge, helping out the younger generation, and there are some mystic ideas or something which is secretive about forces. So is that what you are trying to do in future? What's the plan for future you have in stores?
I think what I wanted to do in future is what I am actually doing today.
Okay.
So I have reached a stage where, I really feel happy. It's because of this that what I thought I should do, I am doing it.
Wonderful.
In the sense, two aspects. I should be utilizing where I stand in terms of professional knowledge and educational qualification. I should be utilizing that towards betterment of the field that I am in. And this particular field is exactly what the activity that I'm doing today is exactly what I intended to do. As you said, I wanted to develop the aircraft and systems for betterment of the use by the pilots, and I'm happy for that. You may name it as a product development, product management, or business development, whichever way. So those are the managerial terms or management terms that one can use, using my engineering background and the flying background. So that's on the professional front. On the personal front, I think what I wanted to do is talk to people, relate to people, understand their needs at individual level as well as on the professional level. So I think this particular job that I am in today as a chief test pilot is once again allowing me to do that, because I need to talk to people. I need to understand their needs, whether professional or the person that is behind that professional being. Once I understand that, then only I can effectively make some system or aircraft for that particular person. So there is a lot of interaction. I tend to think that I'm a people's person. I want to relate to them.
Wonderful.
And on some level, this activity is giving me that opportunity. So I think I would still like to live in the present than looking into the future, because I'm enjoying the future today.
Wonderful. You know what? There is the whole concept of going through the journey and enjoying every bit of it makes all the future the way that you want. Actually,
I agree. I completely agree with you. And I'm a believer in the journey and not so much on the destination.
Now, one more question about going back to the college days. Would you like to go to the mechanical department in COAP, and you have wealth of knowledge?
I would love to.
So much of.
I would love to. I
You
would
know,
love to share whatever I can, and
super.
in case the people are interested in knowing more about the fields, this and allied fields, I can definitely, contribute from my side. I love the college. I have been there many times, even in the past few years. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Circling back about your hobbies, so how do you tend to spend time when you have leisure time? You listen to music, read?
I can tell you that pilots are not so hard pressed for time, you can always find time.
Oh my God,
No, I'm
very humble of
joking.
you.
There are many, I could develop many hobbies.
Mm.
I am a stargazer. I have built a telescope working when I was in Air Force. I
Mhm.
went to IUCAR to learn to how to make a telescope.
Okay.
So I did that. I read a lot about astronomy, quantum mechanics, and allied stuff. A broad spectrum of subjects, more focused towards science and basic sciences. Uh, I play flute, mouth organ. Sandy
Wow.
and I used to play together.
Sandeep
Rather, we
Joshi.
went to the same tutor in our engineering days.
Wow.
And and what else? I like music.
Right.
The genre doesn't really matter, but I want my music to sound excellent. So I pay great attention to that.
Super. So,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I love to, as I said, read and travel, and have had good opportunities to travel within country, length and breadth of it, as well as abroad. So it's been a good this thing where I had time to do all this. I could spend
Super.
time to do all this. I would say there are spikes of creativity that I am influenced with time and again. So if it
Okay.
spikes again, maybe yes, maybe something else.
Right. Now, a kind of a question which is about work-life balance, balance between family, balance between your personal time with the commitments that you have. So, for a fighter pilot, it would be really, really tough, right? Again, I'm not going to bring that death and fear part there, but managing the time, managing your commitment, managing your focus. How does it
I
work?
think
Does it?
family plays, I think, a lot of important role in maintaining your, uh, maintaining your correct focus and stability in the house, because the stresses, as I said, as you go through becoming a fighter pilot, they're pretty enormous. And you need to dedicate time, as I said, study, prepare, and then practice. This is how the cycle goes there.
Mhm.
So you need to spend time. So my wife, I was fortunate, absolutely fortunate to have Preeti as a very, very understanding and supporting wife. And the crux or the crucial test came after the ejection, when she had to do her role perfectly to the hilt, that kind of a
Oh my
thing.
goodness.
So it does happen. I mean, family needs to maintain a good family environment is required to maintain correct focus, not only on the profession, but as well also in the familial life. There is no doubt in that. It does happen that way.
I think
It goes.
hats off to the
Oh, thank
family,
you. And
right?
even I am grateful to my family to be so with me. And
Absolutely, because it is a great, very delicate balance, and as such, it's a support structure that we have where they have to be,
true,
big
true.
heart, and coping up with those all the things that are coming from the
Yes, yes.
individual and support
I would
system.
generalize by saying that in a soldier's life, family plays a very, very critical part.
So definitely now, so I would like to. I did not want to stop the flow of questions. We could keep talking, but coming to the kind of a end of this discussion. But Yogesh, do you have something that you want to give as a message for youngsters to follow this kind of a career, and not to do, or something that you want to share to really make them look forward? They are definitely looking forward for this career, but something that they need to prepare well, as you were saying.
I would say when I joined the Air Force, we were in the environment where the software was picking up. The software industry was picking up to such a great extent that I tended to think that probably I'm in a job at a wrong time or something like that. Wrong job, wrong time, that kind of a feeling. But as you evolve through the life, you realize that uh, there are certain imperatives that life or the society needs, and defense forces, work in the defense forces is one of them. So you asked me what would I tell young people who would want to consider this as a career option. uh, I would straight away say that if you have not experienced this particular kind of life, whether you work in it or you get exposed or exposure in some other way, I think you are missing a something significant that one would look forward to.
Nicely put.
I mean, this is a challenging field. Some people may not find it as rewarding if you're inclined in other activities of life, but this is totally exhilarating, totally adventurous, totally, as you said, adrenaline filled way of life. And it's for me, it has been a very, very rewarding life, full of challenges, full of excitement, full of thrills, and no doubt that I would love to live it again.
Wonderful. So nicely summarized, Yogesh. So I don't have words, but no formality, but thank you for your time, insights. It was so wonderful to talk to
Not
you.
at all. Not at all. It was very kind of you to ask me those questions where I could answer the way I wanted to.
So I think all of our wishes for you to grow to the heights, to keep doing and exploring the test pilot space that you want to explore, the way that you want to give back to the youngsters as a guidance, and you kind of being an encyclopedia of that knowledge that you want to give back. So I would say
I would
all the
really
best
look forward
wishes.
to, yes. Thank you. Thank
All
you
the
so
best
much.
wishes, and special mention that you keep on doing the wiser things that you are destined to do. All the best for that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Harish. Thank you for
Thanks.
having me here. Thank you.
Thanks.
बिजनेस कोई भी हो, सक्सेस की नींव हम रखते हैं।
बुलंदियों को छूने की आपके अरमानों की उम्मीद जगाती जोत है, हर सपनों का हम स्रोत है।
सही स्ट्रेटेजी, परफेक्ट डिसीजन मेकिंग और बिजनेस ग्रोथ के लिए हम आपके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर आपकी स्वप्न पूर्ति करते हैं। स्त्रोत कंसल्टेक, सिनर्जाइजिंग ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन।